Hey, brothers and sisters. My name is John Crabtree. I'm the pastor of First United Methodist Church here in Mountain City, Tennessee, and Trade United Methodist Church in Trade, Tennessee. I want to welcome you to our Wednesday Ephphatha Bible study for July the 8th, my wife's birthday. Woo! July 8th of 2020. We're gathered together and we're talking about Genesis. We're going to be looking at some of the patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. That trio of names is it appears many times in the Old Testament and the New Testament as the foundational fathers, along with Moses, of the faith that we are recipients of and practitioners of. So today's coffee mug is a beautiful red mug that has an Alaska Native American fish symbol on it. Gail got this for me on our Alaska trip in 2015, if I'm not mistaken, maybe 2017 on our mission trips. Here's a pro tip. If you ever go to Alaska, a really good place to get souvenirs and gifts for back home is the Anchorage Walmart. They've got a huge selection of postcards and pencils and mugs and t-shirts and hats, much cheaper than you can get in other places. And that way you can save your souvenir dollars to buy the really nice stuff, the more handcrafted things out in the more remote areas. So I love this mug, love this color. So thank you and happy birthday to my wife. All right, we are in Genesis chapter 25. We're going to begin in verse 19, Genesis 25:19. These are the descendants of Isaac, Abraham's son. Abraham was the father of Isaac, and Isaac was 40 years old when he married Rebekah, daughter of Bethuel the Aramean of Padan Aram, sister of Laban the Aramean. Okay, we'll stop right there. Stop off kind of quick and talk about this for just a minute. Isaac is 40 years old when he marries Rebekah. Now, we're not talking particularly about 40 as a theological term or anything like that. I want us to pay attention to times in the Bible, especially ages and things like that, people's ages, so that we can get a feel for the times that pass, the times that are going by, because the Bible is hitting kind of the high points, and it may give us the impression that these people's lives are just filled with God kind of interrupting the normal course of events. Hey, Stellar Piper, it's good to see you. I hope you're having a good day. So that is a repeating theme of mine that I want us to think about, that Isaac's been born. He was offered up for sacrifice when he was, I think, 12 or so, and now he's 40. So there are years, his teenage years, his young adult years, going by when the Bible is silent. It may be that God is speaking with him in a very special way every day, but, I'd be willing to bet that the people of the Bible, they're not that different from us. And maybe days go by when all is normal, all is routine, all is just as everything else is. I mean, you've got crops to put in, you've got family to take care of, you've got all the stuff that makes up life, all the activities and day-by-day routine that make up life. And years go by, and for us, it may be easy to think that God has finished with us. Maybe we missed something, or maybe God has forgotten about us. But that is not the case. Our God does not forget about people. God is doing God's work on God's own time. And for us here on this side of the veil, as it were, sometimes it seems to be a long time between conversations with God. But what does God want us to do when God is silent? God wants us to remain faithful, keep on doing the things that He has told us to do, that He expects us to do, so that we are ready when God speaks to us again. So that was 25, 19, and 20. Rebekah, the daughter of Bethuel. So 21, verse 21. Isaac prayed to the Lord for his wife because she was barren. So before I can see. Because she was barren, and the Lord granted his prayer, and his wife Rebekah conceived. The children struggled together within her, and she said, If it is to be this way, why do I live? I imagine there are many pregnant ladies who have said something to that effect toward the later stages of pregnancy. So she went to inquire to the Lord, and the Lord said to her, 2 nations are in your womb, and 2 peoples born of you shall be divided. One shall be stronger than the other, and the elder shall serve the younger. So Rebecca goes to inquire of the Lord, and God speaks to her. So God does not limit God's self to speaking with just the chosen few. God is always up for speaking to basically whoever God wills. We don't want to put God in a box and say, oh, God would never speak to that person. We want to make sure that we're leaving room for God to be God. So Rebecca goes to inquire of the Lord, and she has this rather scandalous prophecy, I guess you'd call it, given to her, that the elder shall serve the younger. In the ancient world, it just was not done. That was just unheard of and uncalled for. The eldest always inherited. The eldest was the treasure. And indeed, Isaac was the firstborn of Abraham and Sarah, and he was the child of the promise. And so we see that, and that would have been normal and expected. But from here on out, we see again and again God choosing to deal with the younger, the outcast, the less likely. God is consistently doing what society does not expect, and that is in order to prove God's power, God's majesty, in order to prove that God can do these things. And again, in the ancient world and what would become the Jewish worldview, barrenness was often seen as a punishment from God. It was, if you didn't have children, you must have done something to offend God. But that wasn't the case. That was just it was just some sort of medical problem. And Isaac and Rebecca prayed, and God granted their prayer, and now she's pregnant, and these 2 sons are going to be the foundation of nations. All right, 24. When her time to give birth was at hand, there were twins in her womb. The first came out red, all his body like a hairy mantle, so they named him Esau. Afterward, his brother came out with his hand gripping Esau's heel, so he was named Jacob. Isaac was 60 years old when she bore them. First off, can you imagine being 60 years old and having a pair of newborn twins? Oh my stars. But anyway, back to our earlier point. So Isaac's been born. He's had this trial of sacrifice. That was really Abraham's trial. He got married at 40. Now he's 60, and he's got the twins. So his life is moving on with these widely spaced encounters with God. And so I don't want us to get discouraged when our walk with God is kind of quiet sometimes. The Bible and certainly media and TV and things like that lead us to think that we should have this exciting, important thing happening to us all the time, and that is really not the case. Real life does not work that way. So it's important to realize that the folks in the Bible are just like us, and God is using, this is one of my catchphrases, God is using ordinary people to accomplish his extraordinary will. So God has a way of using just ordinary folks. And Jacob, he's a character. We're going to spend some time talking about Jacob because he is very much proof that God uses the most unlikely of folks, scoundrels even, to accomplish his will. And if God can use scoundrels and people who are a little slippery, well, he can certainly use me and you, can't he, brothers and sisters? So Jacob and Esau are born, and Isaac was 60 years old. All right, we're still at Genesis 25, verse 27. When the boys grew up, Esau was a skillful hunter, a man of the field, while Jacob was a quiet man living in tents. Isaac loved Esau because he was fond of game, but Rebekah loved Jacob. Once when Jacob was cooking a stew, Esau came in from the field, and he was famished. Esau said to Jacob, "Let me eat some of that red stuff, for I am famished." Therefore he was called Edom, which apparently means red. Jacob said, First, sell me your birthright. Esau said, I'm about to die. Of what use is a birthright to me? Jacob said, swear to me first. So Esau swore to him, Jacob, and sold his birthright to Jacob. Then Jacob gave Esau bread and lentil stew, and he ate and drank. And he rose and he went on his way. Thus Esau despised his birthright. Now, Esau may have thought that Jacob was kidding, but he wasn't. Jacob really did. I hate to say swindle, but yeah, that's probably a fair term. Jacob swindled his brother out of his birthright, the elder son's birthright, for the old KJV refers to a mess of pottage, a lentil stew, which Gail and I have fixed, by the way, and it's really quite tasty. But it's not worth giving up your birthright for. And it wasn't really fair for Jacob to extract that promise from his brother, and it wasn't really fair for him to hold him to it, but he did. And this is kind of a pattern with Jacob. I call him Jacob the trickster. He's a slippery one, but nonetheless, God still uses him. God still has a place for him in God's kingdom. But Esau, he swore very rashly. He didn't think things through. I mean, he should have called his brother and said, "Hey, that's not cool. Don't do that." But he either didn't believe Jacob would really count it, or he didn't really care about his birthright. We don't really know which. The Bible is silent on that. We don't want to read too much into it. But he didn't value what he had been given. And so, again, that's an ongoing theme up into today's time in not valuing what they've been given. We people, humans in general, have a really easy time of not valuing things, that we don't value what's important, and that's a real problem. So Jacob and Esau have a problem here, that Esau is the beloved of Isaac, because apparently Esau is his kind of boy, an outdoorsy hunter type of guy who goes and spends his time outside. And Jacob's the quieter type. He's a man of tents, which is an interesting kind of mental image. I probably would have gotten along with Jacob, someone who probably in today's world be on the computer all the time and things like that. Probably an expert on Star Trek and other trivia. But anyway, but Esau just really didn't value his birthright, and Jacob absolutely took advantage of that. Let's see. Stiller says, Jacob was a slippery one, but I'm not sure Esau was the sharpest tool in the shed either. Yeah, that's true. Even if he thought his brother was kidding, he should have been awake enough or paying attention enough to say, "No, that's not even funny to joke about." But some people, I don't know who I'm thinking of, we don't think well when we get hungry. So that's a good thing. That's a good lesson for me and for other folks like that. And Robert says, love Old Testament history. Jacob and Esau story is a favorite. Yeah, Jacob's one of my favorite characters along with David. Both of them are very flawed characters, and God still uses them in just amazing ways. And I find that really encouraging. So it's really interesting to see how the story kind of unfolds, and God continues to work through these deeply broken people to accomplish his will. Jacob, Esau, David, others, me and you. So God uses broken people. That's okay. That's good news. That's good news for us. So let's see. Technical problem. There we go. Okay. All right. Go on a few more minutes. Okay. Chapter 26. Genesis chapter 26. Um, Now there's a famine in the land, besides the former famine that had occurred in the days of Abraham. And Isaac went to Gerar to King Abimelech of the Philistines. The Lord appeared to Isaac and said, "Do not go down into Egypt. Settle in the land I shall show you. Reside in this land as an alien, and I will be with you and will bless you. For to you and to your descendants I will give all these lands, and I will fulfill the oath I swore to your father Abraham. I will make your offspring as numerous as the stars of heaven, and will give to your offspring all these lands, and all the nations of the earth shall gain blessings for themselves through your offspring, because Abraham obeyed my voice and kept my commandments, my statutes, and my laws." So Isaac, they're fleeing a famine in the land. Just because the family is faithful to God does not exempt them from bad things happening around them. Hello, that should be a strong lesson to us today. Just because we have faith in Christ does not exempt us from being susceptible to COVID-19, for example, or other things that are going on around us. Our faith to God is measured in our faithfulness in the midst of adversity, not how well we escape adversity or whine about the trouble that we're having. We've got to be faithful. So Isaac is faithful. He goes where God says. He obeys God, and God reinforces the promise that he made to Abraham that all the nations of the earth shall be blessed through Abraham, and that's true. We saw that come true. Christ in the incarnation came out of that lineage, and all the nations of the earth have been blessed through Christ. So that is a good and wonderful thing. Okay, verse 6, 26:6. So Isaac settled in Gerar. When the men of the place asked him about his wife, he said, "She's my sister." For he was afraid to say, "my wife," thinking, "or else the men of the place might kill me for the sake of Rebekah, because she is attractive in appearance." Again, they're trying to avoid trouble, and again, their actions end up causing more trouble than they tried to avoid. But God, in the middle of it, God keeps on bringing good out of that situation. Okay, and so the truth comes out, and Abimelech says, when Abimelech finds out, he says, "What is this you have done to us? One of the people might easily have lain with your wife, and you would have brought guilt upon us." So Abimelech warned all the people, saying, "Whoever touches this man or his wife shall be put to death." So Abimelech, even though he wasn't a part of the covenant, he understood the right and the wrong that God has written on all people's hearts. All people have this little mark of God in us, that he has written his law upon our hearts. And we've got, even if we don't know Christ or know Christ yet, we've got this deep-seated understanding of right and wrong. And that too, brothers and sisters, is something that people today need to be paying more attention to, because there's some things that are going on that aren't right. All right. Well, I think we're going to probably stop for this week at here, because there's a lot more going on, and we want to have some time to spend on it. So I hope you guys are going to have a wonderful week. Stay healthy and stay safe. We are, thanks be to God, worshiping back in our church buildings. So we'll have worship at Trade at 9:30 up on the mountain. And then here at First at 11 o'clock, we'll be wearing our masks and practicing our social distancing and our hand washing and sanitizing. And sadly, we won't be singing or anything like that, because that's a good way to transmit the virus. And we'll also be continuing our online worship presence. What we'll be doing is uploading the video of the worship Sunday afternoon. Last Sunday I got it up kind of late, and I apologize for that. So we'll try to have it up by mid-afternoon this coming Sunday. So our online presence will continue. But anyway, God bless you. Have a great week, and we will see you next time. Thank you, and God bless you.